Alright guys, welcome back to the shop. I thought I'd give you guys a little update on the 322 Buick Nailhead project that we picked up. Originally it was to be refreshed, just to clean up and make it run to get the 1953 Buick Skylark running, while that engine gets a full rebuild. And unfortunately that has turned into something a little bit more than that. And as you can see here, when I will actually refer back to when I was pulling the piston out of the engine, the piston came out with it just slid right out of the cylinder with no ring tension at all. And I got it out, and I'm currently cleaning parts for that engine too. That way everything's clean and ready when I'm ready to go back together. But we definitely had a couple of strikes against us on this Nailhead build, which is going to require more time and more money to make it work. Let me get this hot tank going, and I will show you the piston that I pulled out of this Buick Nailhead, because it's a doozy. GM bearings. Came out pretty easy. And that piston looks great, except for that spot right there. It's weird. Ran fine. But it did. The bearing's starting to come apart. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's got an oil point for a slinger. It's cut into the bearing and the rod. 8540. Standard GM bearing. Well, we'll get away with crank polish bearings, rods and mains. We might even get away with just putting a piston with good rings in it. The cylinder bore looks pretty good. I'm going to mic it real quick just to see what the taper is on it. They're pretty good so far. So I dropped that piston out of that engine block and immediately noticed some damage on my piston. And if you can see this, you can see the piston is torched, and my ring end gap is actually here, but it's torched here. The second ring actually even ruptured and cracked. And near as I can tell, more than likely this engine had quite a bit of wear in the bores, so the rings were probably old and worn out. The top ring cracked, which allowed a flame front to go through to the second ring, and it just acted like an acetylene torch and melted the piston. All of the other pistons, all 7 of the other pistons, are intact, in good condition. So technically there's no damage to the cylinder bores, but because of the amount of taper they have, they really need to be bored. The older vehicles with the overly rich choke action at startups and cast pistons really makes for aggressive wear on the bores. More modern engines with moly rings and fuel injection systems really don't suffer a lot of bore wear, whereas these older engines really do. So the goal is to punch the block 30 or 60 over, depending on if we can clean it up with a 30 over bore, then we'll do that. If not, we'll go 60. 30 and 60 over pistons are readily available, as are moly rings, so we can upgrade our rings to moly, which will have better longevity for the engine. It'll make it a 100,000 mile engine instead of a 60,000 mile engine with cast rings. And that's, I think, something a lot of people forget about, is that these old engines all ran cast rings, which cast rings on cast cylinder bores causes a lot of wear. So upgrading to the new Molly pistons will be a benefit. Unfortunately, that wasn't the only strike we had on this 322 we bought from down in North Carolina. We did benefit because a whole bunch of hot rod parts to make my 1941 Ford two-door sedan be very well powered with a 322 Buick. When we're done with it, it should be north of 200 horsepower. Probably not to the wheels, but at least it, at the crank. And then the Saginaw, I'm planning on doing a Saginaw 4-speed behind it because I have one of those in my C10 that I will be removing for a T5 to gain overdrive. But the cylinder heads we took over to the machine shop, they are in good shape. They have been checked, no cracks, the heads are rebuildable. So we're good there. My rocker arm assemblies are in good shape. We'll get those cleaned up here shortly. We have the big problem is when I pulled that block apart, I did notice that we had a freeze plug pushed out, and that concerned me, but I didn't visually see anything at the time I removed it. Unfortunately, getting it cleaned and checked, he found a crack. We've got a crack from that freeze plug all the way down the side of that block. So for me, that makes that block not usable. I do plan to use that engine for a long time, not just temporary. We were hoping that this engine just had a burnt exhaust valve, but it definitely has bigger damage than that. And it got froze, which I was concerned with, but I was like, well, it's North Carolina, it doesn't freeze that often, maybe. Maybe we got lucky. Nope, didn't get lucky. But it is what it is. Sometimes you go after parts trying to rebuild vintage stuff, and the parts you get aren't what they are. You get them apart, you clean them, you check them, and then you recondition them as best you can. In this case, I'm sourcing another 322 block. I found one up in Detroit. It's about a 3-hour each way trip. Go up, pick it up, bring it back. Now, the one I'm picking up north does have a 4-barrel intake manifold and exhaust manifolds, which I was looking at exhaust manifolds or headers, and nobody really makes headers for these old 322s. I can get exhaust header flanges and then make my own headers, but that's a lot of work, and I'm not sure I'm going to have the time for that. But the engine I'm picking up is a 56, so it should have, my understanding is the 56s had bigger valve heads, a better camshaft, and some other things that were, like 56 was the best year for the 322. The 322 was continued to be run from 56 to 59, I think, in Chevy trucks. So there's some of them still out there, and they made a lot of these little guys, and they're a fun little mill. But that's where we're at with the Buick 322 Nailhead. We kind of hit a roadblock, as you often do doing custom projects. Sometimes stuff doesn't work out the way you want it to, and you gotta kind of regroup and figure out what you got to do and move forward. In this case, I'm going to source another 322 block from a different state, and we'll strip it apart, clean it up, go through the same process. Get the heads cleaned up, get the block cleaned up, get them checked, inspected, and then hopefully we have a block that will work and allow us to move forward. In the meantime, I'm going to get the carburetor taken apart for the 53 Buick Skylark and get it rebuilt. I do have a fuel pump that I think is going to work on it now, and that will actually allow me to get that engine running and driving, which will only be running on 7 cylinders. But just like the guy that sold me this engine, he was like, man, that engine ran great. It smoked a little, but it ran fine. And that's probably what we're going to experience with the 53 Skylark. It's going to come out and be rebuilt. I'm actually expecting to see one. I have 1 cylinder on that engine, which is 6. I always get confused on the pistons because they're opposite of a small block Chevy. So 6? No, it'd be 5. Passenger side, second from the back. And I have 0 compression in it. And I'm pretty confident I'm going to find the same thing. A ring cracked, it flame fronted, torched the piston. Hopefully everything else in the block is fine. That engine rotates over fine, and It doesn't sound hurt other than having a dead hole. You can hear when it's cranking. You can hear it spinning. So hopefully you guys are interested in this stuff. This is some of the pitfalls of trying to do vintage car stuff, and instead of just going to the scrapyard and buying an LS and dropping it into a car. There's other complications. But hey, you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching the things we do here in the shop. Lucore Automotive Services in Plain City, Ohio. We're here to help you with your projects and your cars. I'm kind of nose deep in a bunch of them right now. I'm trying to make some headway. We got the small block Ford out of the 65 GT350 clone over to Bob at Bob McVeigh's. And it's got some good parts. It's got some bad stuff that needs fixed, and it is what it is. He bought a project, and it turned out to be a little bit more of a project than what he thought. So have a great day, guys. We'll see you on the next one.